elk geval almal so gestres. You are live.
We are live. So I wonder, have we
See,
got
two
some viewers here?
aunties.
The aunties.
Two aunties, no oomies.
Without a guest yet, the guest is coming. I see he's trying to get on, but anyway. Yeah.
Okay.
How's our maybe while we haven't got anybody, we can do some fun.
Oh, yes.
Let's do some fun, and we do. Dis nie 'n lekker een daai nie. Dis 'n wille een daai, maar miskien gee dit 'n bietjie vir ons lekker energie so. Nee. So ja. Nou wonder ek waar is Dr Clarke vandaan? Ja, maar intussen tyd
het die klok bietjie teruggedraai.
Ja, hy's bietjie agter want onthou dit is UK time. Maar wat ek nogal dink is voor ons moet begin Engels praat nie. Ek dink iets wat ek nogal regtig hierdie week baie ervaar is die goed wat op social media gebeur. All the stuff that happens and that we are and pet parents are exposed to it can be so daunting, and I think it must be an absolute nightmare to be able to separate fact from fiction. Antonette, I don't know, and I think that is one of the main reasons why I want and I love this show so much, is because we are trying to get people in that's got authority to have discussions, and we stir the pot a little bit, and we try and address what is going on social media, on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and sort of just give a little bit of reality back to our pet parents. So for me, I'd like to know what our viewers or our audience think about. So he is having some trouble. Link isn't opening in Chrome. Let's see. Oops. He wants me, the auntie, that's technologically impaired, to helping. Not sure what to do.
Okay, just use. Why doesn't it open in Chrome? Mine opens in Chrome.
Mine is also in Chrome.
Has he got Chrome Plus or something?
Yeah, I weet nie. Sorry, guys.
No, but Retha, what you say is true, and there's so much information, and it's about. I remember when Connor was last year at the summit, and he said something. He said with AI and everything, information is going to be like water. Everyone's going to have information, but you are going to have to figure out, and you're going to have to train to be able to distinguish what is good and accurate information. And I think you're right, this is why this platform is so important. There is so much that we still learn, and that's coming out. I just think as a pet parent that I have to have an open mind about things. But yeah.
Okay, I think he's having some technological. This is the first time somebody. It says he has opened it in another browser. Sorry, Antonette, guys.
Maybe
I'm really
sorry.
Send
him the link. Just resend
I'm
him
going
the
to
link.
try it and send it to him from the other number.
Okay. Because that's the same. That's the one I sent you, no?
Yeah, that's what I opened it on as well. So, viewers, guys, that's the part of life that I love, when I don't have answers and can't get the solution. So please.
Yeah. Mr. Miyagi just saying here that we have to be so careful what we read for Dr. Google and Dr. AI. And it's true, you have to fact check. You have to. You can't just accept things at face value.
So, but where is the fact check? because everything. Where's the fact check and how do you know? Because I mean, the specific post that we are actually talking about, that's her fact check. Where do we get the real truth? Because my truth and your truth might be one thing, and Mr. Miyagi's might be another. So
yeah.
okay, another number. I love this. I love technology.
For once, it's not us.
Yo, that is now Murphy's law. It's absolutely Murphy's law.
Yeah, that's all right. But he's a good one to wait for.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth it to wait for. So yeah, it is. And I mean, and sometimes, and I definitely feel the heat. I think we're stepping on some people's toes with the facts that we're bringing, and the fact is, it is a lot of our information is because of how can I say? We get it from experts. It's not something that I sucked out of my thumb or you suck out of your thumb. So, you know, it is a big thing. Guys, I'm going to quickly try and phone him and see if it gets right. I don't know actually what to do. I can't help him because I don't know what to do. If it doesn't, I just click on the link and it opens up. It's not a problem. And he's been battling, I think, for almost 20 minutes already. But yeah.
Copy. Retha, I'm going to send you the link again. Just see.
Okay, and maybe if I copy it and not just forward it.
Yeah, you can just forward it. That shouldn't be the issue. He might have just dropped the it went through. Okay.
There you are. So I think while we are still waiting and see if it works, I'm going to try. I might go. I just want to see if
otherwise, if we can't get on, I'll find a photo of him, stick it on there, and then you phone him on WhatsApp.
Yeah, and we can have it. We can have it
close to the speaker.
Yeah.
We make a plan.
Yeah. We will make a plan. That is it. Okay, no, he must go on. I mean, I've tried now 3 different things to see if it works, and it works. I wonder if yeah. It is. I've been saying this last 2 weeks a lot because you get a lot of pushback from vets, specifically vets, and I don't want to knock them because we've got a lot of vets that is supportive. And then I think and listen to what they say and how they sort of dismiss facts about nutrition, and then they open their mouths about stuff, and I think to myself is, but where do you come off with this? Where do you get this information, and what make it? Can you not think logically? But I've came to the conclusion that I am actually, my logic is not everybody else's logic. It's the problem.
Yeah.
And it is really, it's a very tricky thing. Yeah. So I'm not so sure about I think it must be unbelievably daunting and scary being a pet parent out there with all the information that is out there, and what do you want, what do you believe, and what do you take as
I'll give you an example, a stupid example. Rossie's on gabapentin now, and how many times have I asked you, Retha, oh yeah, here we go, is it safe?
Is it safe?
Hello, Brendan. Yes, he's here.
Do you know what? Just bypass the MacBook. Just its updated security settings. It was StreamYard. Don't know what's going on. So I'm so sorry. I am here now.
Oh, we're glad you're here. It was so worth the wait. So, how are you?
Oh, it's good to see you.
Wonderful. Yeah, just returned from a busy clinic, so raring to go.
Cool.
Really? I'm sorry. Well, I hope this is going to be a little bit of a decompression session after a busy day at the clinic.
I hope it's going to be decompression and not venting.
Well, me
it's
and
up to you.
Antonette,
You take it wherever you want to go. If
think
venting helps you decompress, go for it.
we've actually just, while we were waiting for you, we had a little chat about the facts and the fiction and things that's going on social media. And I mean, let's put it in the sphere of availability of information, of how many people actually guns and has got the, what is it? They want to nail the natural and more holistic way of looking at pets, and how scary it must be for pet parents out there to be able to distinguish between fact and fiction, and whose truth is the real truth now. So I say my truth is the truth. That's it. You're not allowed to have any other truth. But
we always live our own truth, don't we? I think that's the thing.
Is.
It's like find the path to enlightenment. We could get very, very theoretical here. I'm just think let's stick to some facts, shall we? Yeah, some real science. So let's not cherry pick science, and let's start sticking to what is known, what is used, and what is actually being used you know, on a daily basis in many holistic clinics, you know, rather than it's a great shame. I do feel extremely saddened and sorry for some of my fellow colleagues who've blinkered themselves to only those things that are sold to them by large corporates, and have not looked truly at anything other than distributing drugs and processed things to pets because that's all they feel these days safe to do. Otherwise they feel at threat, and not to be backed up by one of these large corporations. So I think I feel sorry for them that they don't feel that they can reach out and stretch to a more holistic approach to health and the basics of nutrition, and actually sitting down and looking for themselves at the science that's out there.
That boggles my brain beyond. It is like, I almost feel like, have you not seen the light? But it boggles my brain that they cannot do that. But also maybe, and from your point as a busy, you've just had a busy day at the clinic. It is overwhelming. I think in South Africa we really have got a big shortage of vets. I'm not sure in the UK if it's the same. So I do understand these people are working extremely hard. They are overworked and maybe don't have time to just go and sit and have a talk to the aunties and decompress a little bit. It must be. I do understand that to a certain point, but how do you not notice what is going on around you?
Yeah, I think, look, you know, these days they may notice it, but are they willing to stick their heads out and actually start doing something different to their neighbor? Is the next question. You know, do they feel that social proof, doing the same thing as your colleagues, actually keeps you in a socially safe place? And so that often it's quite a sway for you know, social animals, which is what we are. And you know, it takes a little bit of courage to start going, actually, this isn't going the right way. I mean, so I'm looking forward to talking next month about neutering and a different way to approach neutering and how that might be seen to be okay. And actually to talk about that as, look, there are people doing it. I am one of them. And we're not seeing all of these myths that are being painted out there. And I think it's the same, you know, let's talk about a bit more simply, and that science is out there now. You know, it was blasted out of the water in, you know, the early 2000s, lots of larger studies of lots of clinical situations, and a lot of the things that were being murmured about, you know, from cruciate disease to obesity rates to cancer to behavioral issues, you know, all of these things that were starting to be talked about. And actually, all of a sudden, you know, somebody came out and said, did you know that actually there is a different population if you leave them entire for longer, and actually if you leave them entire for their lives, that they don't have all of those population diseases that you're seeing in the neutered patients. And yeah, the same thing we see for so many of our nutritional components. You know, did you realize that there's now the science out there that looks at ultra processed diets versus fresh? You know, this seems ridiculous, isn't it? Because you would never go to your own doctor, having been ill for maybe 6 months, and expect them to turn around and say, you should have more ready meals and fast food. You know, they're always going to say to you, maybe it's about time you thought about a bit of a fresher diet, you know? And so, you know, we're looking at this and we're seeing the science, and, you know, the people out there that say, but you can't say that unless you've got a particular study in that particular breed of that particular species, and it's got to exceed 1,000 cases before I'm going to accept that there is the science that proves that fresh food that you can recognize is better than ultra processed food. I mean, oh my God, you know, they've forgotten all of the science that used guinea pigs, you know, let's face it, rats, whatever, as the foundation for so many of the medicines that they are peddling every single day. You know, they can't make that jump. But realistically, we should come back to, you know, looking at fresh foods, looking at omega-3s. You know, I've done so much work recently and just seen so much benefits. If we can just change that minimal ratio that AFCO and FEDIAF put in there, and actually stop it being a minimum scrape over the bar of 30-1 omega-6 to 3, and think that that's going to be fine. No, that's your bare minimum that you need to get them up to if you're feeding them high grain diets which are deficient in omega-3. Let's pumping in a bit more and at least get to 30-1. Well, guess what, guys? If you want true health and you've got an inflammatory condition, you need to be at 3-1 ratio. That's a 10-fold increase in omega-3. You know, these are the things that people will start to realize.
And it is very scary because they then also say, and most people say then, yeah, but the minimum requirements from AFCO and FEDIAF, and if you go in that, there is no requirement for omega.
Minimum requirements. Okay, minimum requirements. Look, and get this. Yeah, some people say, oh, but then you'll start to get toxic. Okay, get this. I did some calculations for you. So the toxic dose for omega-3 is 2,500 milligrams. So 2,500 milligrams per 1,000 calories. Okay, so that's how you've got to get to toxic levels. Okay, now what does that mean in real terms? That means for a 10-kilo dog, okay, or 10-kilo puppy, let's say it's growing, it's a large breed, okay, and you're pumping in foods at about 110 calories per kilocalories, that is, per kilo, okay, you're getting it in there. You're trying to do that. So you've got to give it 2,500 milligrams, okay, daily to even think that you're going to get close. Whereas actually most people for a 10-kilo dog may be giving tops 1,000 milligrams. You know, you've got all sorts of other things that you should be looking at there, that you're way off giving a toxic dose. And most supplements out there didn't even say that. They'll be talking for a 10-kilo dog maybe at 250 to maybe 300 milligrams that they're daring to do. And people start to do the tests that I'm now doing with Omega Quant. They're available around the world, you know, from Australia to America to the European Union. You know, you can get these tests. You can pinprick test your pet and send them in, and literally they will look at the relative levels of omega-3 to all the other fatty acids, including omega-6, and you can see the deficiencies out there, see that information. So these are easy ways. If you're uncertain and you're worried that somebody's going to come along and overdose your dog, why don't you test and see?
Exactly. And then also I do think when it comes to omega-3s, because it is I mean, this is a can of worms we're opening now.
Sorry, I've gone into vent. I've totally ignored all of your information and just gone straight in. Who needed an icebreaker?
Brendan, we'll do the introduction right at the end, all right? Just before you bugger off, we'll do the intro.
For those that does not know who our guest is.
Yeah, our mystery guest is.
Kaboom!
You tell them, seeing that he's given us such a nice intro.
No, he's the cool guy from the UK. I think he lives in Yorkshire. Yes, Yorkshire. Typical. And
that's it. Tell it as it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he's been a vet surgeon for over 25 years. He's the person that put RawSAFE together. Am I right? Yes, so that is basically the standard to what we want to measure raw food. And just a super cool guy. I mean, last year you had toilet paper rolling on the stage, and I think Connor was wearing a pillow or something.
A lot of things.
But yeah, we just learn so much from you, and the way that you present the information is just always, a little bit of humor. And really just, it sticks.
A little bit of humor. I beg you, please. There's a lot of humor with it. It's so much fun.
But yeah, that is our Dr. Brendan Clarke.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, and I do try to enjoy the sessions. Loads of people, I used to be really anxious getting on stage, believe it or not. And I think sometimes you've got to do a few icebreakers and you've got to sort of like make it a little bit relevant and all the rest of it. But, hopefully we're going to bring the same stuff. I promise, I'm going to be talking a bit about surgery, and I am not going to spray red paint or blood or any other bodily fluids across the stage. But hold on to your hats, we might have a little bit of...
Just in case.
We are going to talk about sex, all right? As I hope you're okay with that,
And isn't there some hot flushes in there as well?
I can bring out some. Yeah, there'll be plenty of people with red faces, I'm sure.
Yeah. Talk about sex and shit.
Yeah, just call it by its name. I think Yorkshire is probably pretty close to South African kind of. Yeah, just call it by its name.
Yeah. Well, that's how I've taken it. For all the South Africans I've known, they've been very much, they don't take umbrage with anything that's said. They like it to be quite plain and clear. So hopefully I'll bring that to the stage.
We do not beat around the bush. Definitely not. So basically what we're also saying, and I'm going to say it again, if you have not booked your ticket yet, there's still a few seats left, and they need to book it because they are going to miss out on all the fun. Not toilet paper rolling down the stage, but some other fun. So, yeah.
So anyway, I mean, you've asked me to obviously tailor my talks around the neutering stuff, and that's going to be great. I think I was going to deal with the shit that most people want to know about, which is also the constipation thing. So I don't think we're going to have the opportunity for that. We've just not got enough space because you've got so many other great speakers. I'm so looking forward to listening to them too.
Yes, but you're gonna have the full of shit opportunity. You're gonna have it.
I get a chance to speak. Oh, great.
Yeah, totally.
The day is just getting better.
Yeah, totally. So we've really touched a lot on the Omega-3 thing and how important it is. But I sometimes think everybody out there has been told Omega-6 is inflammatory, Okay, and omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. Is that actually right, or is it more about now you can carry on?
Oh, look. All of the omegas have a role to play in a lot of the molecules of communication within the body. And some of the inflammatory mediators, so the things that actually tell the body you need to respond with your immune system to this injury so that you can fix it, or that you need to respond to this attack from a virus or a bacterium. You need to, draw in the blood cells, the white cells, to fight that, to resolve it, to reorganize and fix that, to stop moving. All of those signs of inflammation that we talked about last year, or Nick talked about last year, is really, really relevant to making sure that, you keep that knee still if you've injured it, that you give it chance to recover, that you've got the swelling there. You've got the redness because that's the blood flow going in. You've got the pain to stop you physically trying to move it. You've got these factors of inflammation that are there, the fluid buildup, etc. All of that can be really important in stages of various inflammation. However, if it becomes a runaway train and there's no reversal of that, then you can end up with ongoing, persistent problems. And when that inflammation becomes continual skin irritation, that can cause the dysbiosis, and it can lead to all sorts of chronic scarring and persistent annoyance. So it's great in the short term if it does its job. And for some of those inflammatory mediators, omega-6s are precursors to the arachidonic pathway. Not going to go too far, but that's prostaglandins and all of the thromboxanes, etc., that come from that. And in that pathway, sure, they have a role to play. But in excess, you're back to imbalance occurring. So if you've got loads of omega-6 and you've got loads of precursors to that inflammatory pathway, but you have no way of switching that off, and actually once the cells need to be fixed and new cells need to grow, and you want good, healthy cell walls, you need those omega-3s to be in there to help with that healing process, to help calm down that inflammation. And if you don't have enough of those because you've got this imbalance, then you're more likely to end up on that runaway train and constant irritation. So it is so important that there is balance. You can't have zero omega-6s. That's not what I'm trying to say to you. I'm just saying that actually the balance that we see today in most processed foods is woefully inadequate. And we haven't even touched on the damage that processing makes to some of those omega-3s and omega-6s, and in fact all omegas, because guess what? When you've got a double carbon bond, what happens is that actually it loves oxygen. It loves to oxidize. And when it oxidizes, it kinks the thing out of kilter, and it becomes a innately inflammatory part of any cell wall. It becomes damaged. And so the cell starts to look like some spiky, god-awful cratered surface that white cells are going to come across and go, you don't look normal, I'm going to eat you up. And so we want to say, please, if you're going to give omega-3s, don't just get the ratio right, but at least try to make sure they don't oxidize it. And what oxidizes it? Well, heat. Guess what? Cooked foods are going to be worse than raw. Okay. Excessive amounts of oxygen. So again, if you're storing that in a hot environment, ambient temperature, it's more likely to oxidize. If it's frozen, which, let's face it, most raw foods are going to get to your freezer frozen, and they're going to stay frozen until you defrost them for the dish. So they're not going to start to oxidize in any great measure. So having omegas and omega-3s in your frozen diet, or if you must, you can get air-free pumps. And guess what? there's another great omega-3 option. You've all seen these on the shelves. They come ready sealed in a packet, that you can actually crack one open without it oxidizing. So, it's just what you need to think about how you get those omegas into their diet fresh. And those are really important. So it's not just about the balance, but also about the form and how protected it is that it's getting into the food.
A lot of the omegas, they come in a pumpy bottle, like with this. And I'm assuming that you pump air into that every time.
You're absolutely right. So more normal salmon oils, you'll see this a lot. The ones that are, a few pounds, that works out at probably a couple of $100. Okay, in a bottle, says it's salmon oil, usually has a nice dispenser on the top. Say just stick it on the side, in a lovely South African summer, and you're holding it over the dish and pumping it, and then thinking, oh, I just put that back there, and if you suddenly pick it up and think, oh, that's now 3 months old. Okay, I wonder what that smells like, and it's getting fishier and fishier and fishier. And you're saying it's just from salmon oil. That must be salmon. That's the smell of fish. That is rancid fish oil. Okay, you've allowed air to get in that. So that's why I say there are specific pumps that will say they're air free. So what they are, is within here, there is a plunger that is slowly depressing every time you pump the top. Okay, so they generally have a pump on the top here that pumps down, and every time you do that, this little plunger is moving up, so no air is getting in. It's allowing the plunger to go up, a little bit like some of those toothpastes that you used to see, that as you pump them out, the little plunger is moving up the inside of the cone. And those are air-free pumps. I would still fridge them as soon as you've got them, especially in warmer climates. And we've had extreme heats, as far as we're concerned, 30 degrees. Oh my God, that's like 30 degrees Celsius is just too hot for us Brits. Never mind the 40 degrees you get in Spain. And that is really too hot for these oils. You should be trying your best to keep them in the fridge, keep them cool. And so I would definitely say for warmer climates around the world, fridge your stuff as soon as you can. Try and preserve it. Don't, if it's out of date, if you're going back and you're finding those well-woman capsules of fish oils, and you're thinking, well, it's only 3 months out of date. Oh, actually no, it's 3 years out of date. Should I still use it? No, don't. Okay, this stuff has a shelf life. You might, Yorkshire folk are renowned for being careful with their money, and we hate waste, but actually you are doing more damage, and you're going to have to buy more than double the amount to replace what you're taking if you start taking that out of date stuff. So please, please, please don't do it.
So this is actually the one instance where smaller sizes would be better. Buying a smaller size.
There are cheap ways. If you really want to buy an economy and you have a big enough freezer, okay, you can store it in the fridge for what you're going to use in the first week. Then what I say to people is take that stuff that was hopefully sealed when you got it in your big 10-litre tub. Why would you do that? But if you did, okay, even for your olive oil. Yeah, that really dark green, brilliant olive oil packed with antioxidants and omega-6, and omega-9, yes, okay, it has some of those other constants, but it's effectively the antioxidants that are key in extra virgin olive oil. If you must insist on getting a 10-litre drum, what you then need to do is start thinking about how can I freeze that in appropriate amounts so that I can pop that frozen stuff out for my dog into their dish. So you can look at those, the ice cube bags that you can get that you can fill up to, with water, and they sort of fill slowly and create individual ice cubes. So you can literally do the same with the oil, freeze them like that. Okay, and then you can
Okay.
stack them in the freeze. You can just take them out, pop them out. So if you must buy in bulk because you want to do it because it's more economical, that's the way to treat those oils. Freeze them as soon as you can.
Mm, mm, mm. And then
Or
what
get
about
really
things like
expensive and store them under nitrogen, but you know, that's another.
okay, no, we're not there yet. And what about things like flax and hemp oil? Do you get the same bang for your buck, or should you stick to the fish oils?
Wow. So that's an interesting thing. So what you need to know first is how do they farm these oils? Okay.
Mm,
What's the process? And so one of the biggest things, so rapeseed oil is
mm,
a big one. Okay. And so many people don't realize that in the farming of rapeseed, there is usually 3 applications of glyphosate so that you can keep the weeds out of the crop. And that's actually advocated by the people that sell the seed. They sell the glyphosate at the same time.
mm,
And that's a herbicide for those people out there, but it has an effect on the microbiome and all sorts of other factors that has. And on top of that, at the last application, which is to kill the crop, so that's like a increased dose because they want the whole of the field to dry at the same time. So they're going to try and give an absolutely whopping dose to just kill off the crop so that it then dries out so they can take the seed. And actually, even beyond that, when it's then delivered into the hoppers to keep it from getting moldy, to keep from rotting, some places will apply even more glyphosate. Then it goes for processing, which is a crushing. Do you think they wash each individual seed to make sure there's no glyphosate on that anymore? Okay. No, they don't. They literally put it into a mill, okay, long rollers, which basically are constantly crushing and creating a mash of this. And then do you think it's then a lovely ornate press that they slide this stuff into with, you know, metal clamps that come down, and there's some guy with a big handle grinding that to close it, and it's dripping out into tiny little glass bottles? Is it heck? They are chucking that stuff in and they are blending it under big mechanical rollers, and then they're sticking it into what looks like an oil refinery, okay, to effectively heat up that product to release as much oil as possible. And in that, it literally, just like those school days when you learnt about oil refinery, because obviously everybody did that at school. And you know, the little bits that you take off at the various levels and where the waste is, and then you end up with this fraction that you can take off. Do you think that is in perfect, pristine, unoxidized form? You know, it's just been through this huge heating process. Do you think it is, you know, decontaminated from all of those herbicides that's used on that crop? You know, these are the problems. Now, if you're telling me absolutely they have organically reared this rapeseed, that they have dried it all by cutting this each and every individual stem at the same time to then stand it in the crop field to let it dry, and then they've shaken all of those seeds out and they've gone through a crushing process and put it in this lovely press, and you've got all of that. Brilliant. Hats off to you. It probably will cost you at least 20 times what the other oil will cost you. Okay. But, you know, yes, will it have some benefits? Absolutely. Those other omegas, I've said, are beneficial to the body. But should they be used in excess? No. Should they be used if they've been from a non-organic farm and gone through that high processing? No. And should you be in a situation where you think there's omega-3s in any of those plant seeds? Please remember, a cat cannot convert SDA and the other plant omega-3s into DHA or EPA, which they require. And then the dogs have enzymes that can convert, guess what? Maximum about 3%. 3% of that omega-3 from a plant source can be changed by a dog. I mean, it's not actually that far off from humans, but a lot of people just think omega-3 is omega-3. They don't look at all of the different molecular structures, and actually the need for your brain and your tissues are EPA and DHA, and not all of these other things. Not just DHA. You still need some EPA within that mix. So watch out for your algal oils, which can often be just DHA if you're not careful.
I'm listening to this, and I mean, I don't do plant seed oils and things like that, because it's actually so scary how many things is full of that. But listening to this, I'm going to go through my cupboard again and say, check out what has got a remotely thing, because as I keep on saying, when people, it's like my domestic workers love to have, they call it cooking oil, fish oil, but it's not because it's fish oil. It's the normal canola oil where they fry fish in. Okay. And
so can I just say, so canola is rapeseed oil. So all of that stuff that I've just said, made by it was a Canada refinery process that was looked at. That's the can bit, okay. And Ola was for the oil. Okay, so that's where canola comes from. So it is a refined rapeseed oil. So canola should not really be on your shelf. Okay, and can I just say the one thing, if you are cooking in this day and age, then you should use effectively a saturated fat. So animal fat is your best buddy when it comes to cooking, because it actually is unlikely to oxidize because it's already hydrogenated. Okay, and actually, yeah, just use it. Add some butter.
Tallow.
Yeah, tallow. Yeah, so some people will use lard. Some people will, there's all sorts of options depending on what it's coming from. Beef dripping. All of those are hydrogenated fats. I'm happy to use those. I wouldn't even use olive oil. Olive oils are for dressing the meat with flavoring and antioxidants, or dressing the salad afterwards. Okay, get your best quality olive oils, that you can afford. And if that is one of the cheaper ones, that's one of the cheaper ones. But you don't cook with it. It literally is for carrying flavors like chili and garlic and herbs, and allowing you to mix that onto your food.
It is. I hope everybody is taking notes and listening very carefully, because this I get this question a lot, and sometimes I sort of think, can we just not do olive oil over dog food? Or now I'm cooking my dog's meat in some olive oil. I'm thinking, please don't do it, because the temperature has got such an important role in playing when you heat it up. And you're actually taking the olive oil and doing exactly what is happening with the rapeseed oil, with the cooking, and you're getting it to that point where it is no longer healthy.
Yeah, and look, I've applied best quality avocado oil, best quality olive oil, has some great anti-cancer properties, when you're going in there, packed with antioxidants. You want the antioxidants, that deep green that's within those. The color is your clue that there's some great plant nutrients within there that are going to be beneficial. Not loads, but if you really want to jazz things up for your dog, and you feel that that's what they want a little bit of, I have no problem if somebody wants to add a teaspoon of those oils, but don't cook them. Don't wreck them first. Put them in fresh, drizzle them on, let them have them. Absolutely.
So things, when I get calls to ask the question about omegas and how do I put it through, so even people that is feeding a great raw food, I always say you add the omegas in natural form because that's so much more biologically available. So your sardines, your sprats, your pilchards, those type of your small fishes, that is great for and packed in omega-3. Some
I would
muscle meat.
agree. Look, fish with heads, especially, none of this, just the muscle of the fish. The little white baits are great that you can just, stick the whole thing in. Those can be great. But I think, look, in this day and age, it would be great if we could include brain material to a greater degree. The fear of BSE, that's one of the transmissible spongiform encephalopathies. These prions hold a great threat to our health, and therefore, we've been really careful, and the European Union banned those products, as did many other countries around the world, for fear of them getting into the human food chain and causing Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is Creutzfeldt-Jakob is effectively a debilitating neurological disorder that effectively those mad cows become mad humans, and they get uncontrollable shakes. They effectively deteriorate to a point of paralysis and die. And that's a horrendous way to go. And I can understand why they wanted to stop that from being a risk. But we've got, the UK, fortunately, has had an eradication program, which has meant that we have been able to avoid that continuing to be a problem. And now we're in a situation where actually they aren't finding enough of any of the TSEs within UK meat to say that there would be a legitimate threat. And they have opened up for any young animals brain material can now, so that's anything that's under the following June of the year that they were born, then they would be considered that the whole of the animal can now be used, rather than extracting all of those specified offals, etc. There's still enough trepidation about what about the one case that may ensue if they use older animals. But I think with time that will become a thing where we will start to say, okay, we're going to test these farms as this material is being produced in the abattoirs. There is a test for the prion now, so they can use it abattoir side, and that means that there will not be a wait of weeks to release the product, and it means that a massive food waste process can be changed into that being used legitimately for foods again, and that's going to release a great source of natural DHA and EPA for us to use, even if the human market don't want to use it. Although you can get some of this product. I think New Zealand have released some brain capsules from tested animals that they know are effectively BSE free, and you can actually buy them in capsules worth at a time, because there's loads of other nutrients within there, not just the omega-3s.
So I think in that scenario, South Africa is really very privileged, or for us as raw feeders, we're really, really privileged because of we don't have the regulations about it. And if you use a good reputable abattoir, we can have brain matter. And so things like your chicken heads, your duck heads, ostrich heads with us is amazing that I use. And I use a lot of salmon heads that we mince as part of it.
TSE is not in those head materials. And, if you can get over your slight squeamishness, these are brilliant. I mean, for cats, entire little day-old chicks and things like that can be, great sources of some of those omega-3s. And don't tell me that you've never seen a cat eat a little bird, because I'm sorry, it's well known and renowned for them to do that. And the same with little rodents, they eat this whole little thing. So, we need to be thinking maybe a bit outside the box how we get these in a natural form. But I would still say overall, generally raw meats, unless you're doing the tests or unless you're adding into your raw meat, as I do when you may or may not know, I advise Bella and Duke on their formulations and products. But in order to get that ratio down to, so a standard raw meat but no brain material in will be around 15:1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. To drive that down to a 5:1 ratio for just normal good health, takes some extracted omega-3s from mid-Atlantic sardine and anchovy oils, just extracted under cold pressing, under nitrogen, and being used appropriately straight into the frozen foods. These are the ways to deliver that sort of levels. Those are the things that I would do. I have not, even with our whole fish product, we're only seeing 9:1 ratios thereabouts. You don't actually get enough if you're just feeding a few sardines on the dish alongside the rest of the meat.
So that's why it's great. So like my formulations, I do have brain matter in every single formulation and that's how I get my omega-3s and those values up and adequate, which is great because we're privileged, and I don't think we actually in South Africa understand how privileged we are that it is that we can use that. And then also, besides the brain matter, and I think the way let's say not all beef in South Africa is reared grass and is grass-fed and pasture-reared. The stuff that I use for some raw is, and that already puts it in a little bit of a next level in terms of availability of the right omegas.
Well, they're rightly, if they're grass-fed, grass-reared, and not having excessive grain in their diets, you're absolutely right. The difference in profiles of omegas within their meat is already going to be different to a lot of the other formulations that are out there. So, that's where you want to be going. That's why pasture-reared product is so much better.
Yeah, totally. Look, and let's be honest, when you have droughts, and we do have that in South Africa, then you can't necessarily let them run all free in big pastures because then they burn too much energy and you don't get muscle on it, whatever. But even though if they come to, I don't want to say use the word feedlots, but for me it's important, even then they must be fed grass, not a bunch of mealies and grain and stuff like that. So it's important. It's really important for me, for what we eat as well. It is important for me that I know, because it is so important, because our diets are deficient of good omega-3 sources. I once was at a lecture.
And of course, there is one other thing. Sorry, I just come in there for you talking about feedlots and how they feed those, and if it's chickens and the turkeys and all of the poultry that you've talked about, even duck, we're talking about sustainable foods and actually processing waste food back into realistic food and saying, there's all of this protein that we can create through insects, etc. But actually, aren't poultry just the perfect insectivores? Is that not actually where we should be generating, some better dietary influence to rear those birds in a way, from something that's appropriately, again, species appropriate feeding. And therefore they will generate better foods and meats for us and for our pets.
It is so, you are hitting a very, very, very passionate point for me on that, because I do think there's been some projects across South Africa where they actually create black soldier fly farms to raise chickens from. And it is amazing to see the size of the chickens, the whole profile of it. It's such an easy way to raise them in a good species appropriate, because they eat species appropriate food. Which is absolutely great. It always stays a big passion to to not just for our pets feed species appropriate, but also for the chickens, the mice, everything around us is not to the thing pellet or kibble. Pelleted food is becoming such a big thing that, I mean, mice, hamster, parrots, all gets food that's in some form of pellets that has been ultra processed. And it's scary stuff if you start looking at it, because that's not really great for the health of all beings. I'd like us to just quickly touch on dose. So you have said the huge dosages. So, but for the normal person on the floor, I've once been to a human nutrition lecture, and they were talking about omega-3, and somebody asked how much is enough, and the response was as much as you can afford.
As I say, it gets pretty hard to really take so much, especially as a human. I mean, probably the biggest high potency fish oils that you can get in capsules around the world generally will come from companies like Lambert's, will produce 1100 milligrams, not all of which is DHA and EPA, but certainly they will say this is omega-3s from fish oil. And you can imagine for every 10 kilos, you've got to take at least one of those, to get toxic, you'd have to take 2 of those. So if you're a young, 55 kilo lady that, needs, don't even talk about my weight, but, you sort of start taking, 10 of those capsules a day to get toxic, people are going to be going, for the taste, let alone trying to get toxic on them. I think you'd have to go some to really take that. And their recommended dose on those is about 3 capsules a day for the average female, going up to 4 for the average male. But 100 kilos body weight, can you imagine how much you're going to have to take to be toxic? So that's the human side. So as I said, most of the experience I've had with treating ill patients, inflamed patients, still getting to that 1000 milligrams is really, really, important, I think, for a 10 kilo dog, in total. But you've got to start to look, if they're on a good food that's relatively low in omega-6, then, they can probably get away with, 500 milligrams as their total supplement per 10 kilos body weight. If they're on a really bad food with loads of omega-6, then you're going to have to be going to the top end. And that's a classic with a lot of these joint supplements. One of the big benefits is omega-6, but can you imagine the amount of money people are spending on these joint supplements when they're designed for the deficiency of an ultra-processed diet, which is, corn-based? And you actually think, do you know what? You could save yourself a fortune in supplements by just feeding a good raw food. And if you have an animal with an inflammatory condition, just ramping up the omega-6, just focus on the omega-3, within that diet, and just ramp up that omega-3 alongside a good raw food. All of the chondroitin and the glucosamine and the collagen is all going to be in that raw food. You don't need to buy a supplement that's going to cost you a fortune for that.
That's a very interesting point, and it always comes back to cost, because one of the objections for raw, it's more expensive. But we forget to add the supplements that we add to the kibble. And once you start adding that in, and then you work your price out per portion, because you're feeding less of the raw as well, because most of it is absorbed, where with the kibble, they just poop most of it out because there's no fillers in it. but they just poop everything out that they don't use. So I don't know what you call that. But so I think, sometimes we just need to kind of stop and think, all right, maybe the ticket price is more expensive, but let's compare apples to apples. And kibble
let
plus all the
alone the cost to the vet, to the the drugs, the other stuff that you're going to get on in later life if you've got more disease problems. And that's what the science shows. You've got other health issues coming down the line.
Yeah,
So,
I think
a big question that I very often get is that people say, yeah, but so does this mean I'm not going to do any supplements? And I mostly say, if you feed balance and you add the extra, the sardines, the sprats, the things like that into your food, you most likely are not going to need to supplement. Is that a reckless statement to give?
Look, I think every person, and therefore every pet, is going to have some slightly different needs. And I would say, if you have the fortune to come across some great foods out there that are packed with antioxidants and packed with slightly different nutrient profiles, and you're using them for your own salads and things like that, and I'm talking back to the oils here specifically, but maybe even if you're using them in your morning foods like spirulinas and things like that, then occasionally adding those will enhance your pet's uptake of some of those great rare minerals, great rare vitamins, and antioxidants, etc., that's in there. And is that not far better to consider using some of what you have, which obviously double check what's toxic to dogs? I don't want any onions being added into your dog's food. I don't want anything that we know, chocolate and things like that. Yes, great antioxidants, but toxic to your dog. Okay, I don't want things like that being added in. But rather than letting there be a smidge of a bottle in the back of a cupboard going rancid, is it not better to add it to our pet's dish and give them a little bit of something different, for, a few meals? That I don't consider really supplementing as much as actually making the optimal use of what would otherwise be food waste.
Yes.
So, that's a great way to just think, I can add that. And, I don't think my wife has ever turned around to me and said, what happened to the last bit of that, blueberry powder that we got from Louvre? What happened to the last bit of the, sea buckthorn, or the maca or whatever? They don't notice it, just a little bit, a teaspoon or 10 disappearing into the dog's dinner now and again. I think it is something that we should encourage, because, is that not fulfilling them being part of our whole family and epigenetic sharing and all of that side of things? We should be trying to promote some degree of change of health through that.
Totally agree.
Do you need to go out and buy a supplement? I am so apologetic if you produce supplements for your followers, but from a point of view of if they've got a specific illness and they've had a deficiency in their diet in the past, then it may be necessary to top that up. If they are enjoying rude health and they are getting variety and they're getting a great portion raw food, do they need to supplement just in case? No, they don't.
I always say supplement. Now I'm thinking of the word. Targeted supplement. So if I've got a dog with joint issues and then you add, or if you've got a predisposition in your breed and this is a dog that most probably is going to have issues, then you do. But don't just go because I feel like supplement trigger happy type of scenario, because it's not always necessary. And a lot of people can totally over supplement. I mean, sometimes the list of stuff that gets, I'm just thinking, this poor dog. And even with humans, if you like, sort of, somebody said the other day she takes 15 supplement tablets every morning, and I thought, poor you. Top of it, really just have a healthy, well-sourced diet, and it can help you already a lot. So
it's just so that she can eat 15 McDonald's that week. That's the thing.
it's a McDonald's is going to climb onto us.
Listen, just before we get kicked off, there's one question. We're eating into your time now, Brendan. There's just one question from Ida. She was advised by a nutritionist, or recommended. She's got an 8-kilogram cat, to take 1 capsule of omega-3 per day, but to split it into 2 doses. Is there a benefit of splitting, or can she give it in one go?
She can give it in one go. There is no benefit other than, if they're particularly fat intolerant, i.e. they've got a really poor biliary output, then there may be some reasons to consider that. But omega-3s are not the fat that you need to be worried about for that. There's lots of other oils that you'd probably want to be just keeping down. And again, even if it were for pancreatitis, one of the things that I do for pancreatitis cases is increase their omega-3s because it's anti-inflammatory. Pancreatitis, it's an itis, an inflammatory condition. So you want anti-inflammatory foods going in. So actually, omega-3s are really important in those cases. So is there any benefit? No, not for that. I mean, I need to know the size of the capsule, because a capsule is just a name of something that could be a 20 milligram of omega-3s, or it could be 2000. Well, no, they don't do a 2000 and 1100 milligrams of omega-3. That's probably the largest capsule anybody would take, because it's a torpedo of a thing. And I think, you've got to look at, what is the size of that capsule that they're talking about. I would suggest that most average small cat capsules may have between 120 and 200 milligrams of omega-3. I think they're probably underdosing for the size of cat you've just named. I think they're probably underdosing at that, and certainly do not think they need to split the dose, unless of course they're on a great Pawsome raw food which is packed with omega-3s already, and then they only need a little bit of a top up.
Okay. So thanks. I'm going to need to. So guys, I think we're going to need to wrap up, because otherwise we're going to get kicked off. So there's 3 things. Unceremoniously. There's 3 things that I just want to take home, bring back to. Omega-6 is not necessarily the enemy, but not having enough omega-3s is definitely a problem. And that heat is your enemy when it comes to oils, and that can ruin a good oil. And you should buy small and keep it cold. And most of us are giving way too less omega-3s to our pets. I think that's wrapping it up in a nutshell. And
don't forget heat and oxygen. Okay, I would just say, allowing it to be exposed to the air is one of those big factors within that as well.
Where can our audience reach and find Dr. Clarke? Antonette, you can say.
No, you can talk his own business. I don't want to talk.
You can find him there.
Look, you can find me. So we're really looking forward. We've recorded with the 2 crazy cat ladies and Amaya Espindola a new series of Feline Fridays. We're going to be
awesome.
releasing that on the new website that is now coming for Raw Pet Medics. So you're going to find a little bit of a new place to find us that's not going to be at the whim of Meta for whether we're going to have long form or short form. So you'll see a few bits coming out there, which we're really looking forward to this autumn. As far as, if you need to contact me at the clinic, you can get in touch through holistic@towerwoodvets.co.uk. So we're based up in Yorkshire, so I oversee that clinic, and we're truly an integrative clinic, and I do everything from homeopathy, acupuncture, truly herbal medicine, nutrition, all of that holistic integrative stuff, as well as having the knowledge to talk about conventional options and understand where people may be going to with their diagnoses, etc. So that's where you find the clinical stuff. You'll find me on a lot of social media to do with Bella and Duke, because I deal with their food advice, and we've got some great series of infomercials and information as well on the joy of feeding pets coming. So please do watch out for that. You'll see some of the work that I do with RawSAFE, so rawsafe.com. We are so looking forward to support anybody who wants to support us through that. That will enable us to start moving into Europe and around the world. That's been a big push. A lot of places have wanted us to expand beyond the British borders. So we're looking forward to that. And that probably just about summarizes most of the places, other than obviously Raw Feeding Veterinary Society that we come to. Shall I carry on? No, I should shut up.
No, it's like we need a next show.
You are all over the show. We can find you. They just need to say Dr. Brendan Clarke, and then they'll find you. So, Brendan, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for giving up your precious time, your time that you were supposed to decompress at home. We are really looking forward to see you in 3 weeks' time.
I know, not long. It's great.
Yeah. It's going to be an awesome time. And we are very, very, very grateful for your time. So thank you very much. And Antonette, over to you.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you. It's lovely to see you again. And I look forward to seeing everyone again in Stellenbosch as well. So fun times. Buy your tickets, guys. If you haven't bought it yet, just buy the ticket. Just skip the Christmas presents, just buy the ticket and come and see us.
And just remember, you don't get just to see us on stage, but we'll be mixing amongst you. You get to talk to us, to go through stuff. We just love to talk about our animals and better health. So, come and join us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Dr. Brendan.
Good night, everybody. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week, same time.
Yeah, not you.
Not you. No, not you. The audience.
Someone else.
So I'm coming back next week.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.